This is COVID-19 Seattle. I'm Dave Ross.
And I'm Aaron Granillo.
In a minute, we'll talk about the permanent closures of some Seattle streets. But first, many Western states are starting their reopening plans.
However, there's not a lot of coordination, it sounds like, between those plans as we might have thought. Washington, Oregon, California started a Western Pact back in early April, you may remember, and they agreed to common standards to reopen. Colorado and Nevada joined that pact about 2 weeks later. Now, to refresh your memory, here's what the states in the Western Pact agreed to. They would work together, they would follow the science, not politics, and that the health of people in each state was their priority in making decisions. They also agreed that if they lifted any restrictions, they had to develop a system for testing, tracking, and isolating cases. So, are they living up to those promises? In Oregon, there are fewer than 3,000 cases, and Governor Kate Brown is lifting restrictions county by county.
Restaurants and bars in these communities may open for sit-down service, but only with adequate physical distancing and the wearing of face coverings by employees. Personal care businesses, such as salons, barbers, shops, and gyms, may open in a limited way. Salons must serve customers by appointment only and maintain records for contact tracing.
Nevada, on the other hand, it is reopening pretty much everything except casinos, strip clubs, and brothels. Colorado almost entirely reopening, and California goes into Phase 2, which looks a lot like our Phase 1. So curbside pickup for retail, manufacturing reopens, and more public spaces also reopening in California. We're all on entirely different pages, it sounds like, even though we're all part of the same pact, Dave.
Yes, it does. And I guess Oregon's infection rate was different than ours, and so we have to base our decisions on our numbers, and they base them on their numbers. But clearly there is still a lot of frustration as to what the actual rules are, which seems to be making it, leaving a lot of uncertainty out there that business owners are frustrated with.
Yeah, one aspect of reopening that a lot of states in this pact are doing, though, is some form of almost contact tracing. So, for instance, Oregon, in our state, I heard auto dealers are going to have to keep a log of customers to help with contact tracing. That's encouraging, I would say.
I guess. I mean, if you feel comfortable with that, I know there was some pushback to the idea that the place where you were just simply shopping for a car before you even decided to buy would have to have your name and I guess a contact number on file. And I guess to make sense, that would have to be applied to any business where two people come close enough to infect each other. So not just car dealers, but presumably barbershops when they reopen, possibly a car wash, depending on how close you get to the attendant, which strikes me as a lot of record keeping.
Yeah, I wonder if that's going to be the case for restaurants, too. I guess I'm not, I don't know how that would work.
That actually, and if you charge it, technically, there is a record there that exists.
That's a good point.
Of the meal, the time, and usually, as I recall, the server's name is right there on the check, so that's probably already there. If the state is allowed to have that information, right? I suppose the restaurant could voluntarily offer it up, but you'd have to get the permission of the customer, I would think.
The city of Seattle closed some neighborhood streets to encourage biking and walking during the pandemic, and now 20 miles of those closures are going to be permanent, and Mayor Durkin says she does not plan on stopping there. The city is looking to close more streets permanently.
We're going to find new and creative ways to maintain some of those traffic reductions as we return to the new normal.
Streets are still open for people who live there, garbage trucks and emergency vehicles, but through traffic is banned. Dave, I know there's been some pushback here.
Well, there is a nice vibe to an empty street with people strolling up and down. Now that sort of that feels good. But on the other hand, the only reason that's happening is because people have no place to go, right? They can't work. And once people do get back to work, they're probably going to want to take their cars to begin with, because I have a feeling the trust in transit is not that high right now. Now, maybe the mayor is doing this as a way to essentially force people back into buses, but we don't respond to force. So if there's anything we've learned, even with the threat of catching a possible fatal disease, right? People would rather do it on their own. They hate being forced to do it.
Another issue that I heard brought up from actually some of our texters is that these are publicly funded streets. And how is the city going to tell me what I can and cannot do on some of these streets?
Well, I don't know how many times you try to take a shortcut through Seattle, but it's like a labyrinth.
True.
If you get off an arterial and you try to take a shortcut through a residential street, they have these traffic calming islands. They sometimes will block you from making the exact turn you want to make for your shortcut. That's on purpose. You start going around and around the block, and eventually you say, okay, take me back to the arterial. I give up. Now, in terms of the argument that, hey, it's my tax money, well, this is the same argument that the people on those streets make. They say, hey, wait, I'm paying my tax money. I would like it spent keeping my street calm. And then you guys who are taking the shortcuts, you can insist on keeping your street calm. But you don't have the right to make my life miserable just to get home 5 minutes earlier.
Okay, so, yeah, clearly there are going to be a lot of people who do like this change. Are there other aspects of changes around here that we do like? So what are some good changes?
Well, the fact that people were walking more and biking more, shopping locally, right? Instead of traveling 20 miles just to save $1 on gas or something like that. People rediscovering their backyards. Sometimes people were forced to spend more family time together instead of being scheduled every hour of every day. I think some people actually welcomed that. If you are sort of an introverted personality like I am, you enjoy having an accepted excuse for not going out and socializing all the time, right? You can say, well, I'm staying home because of the virus, not because I really don't want to see you again, but because I'm doing what's best for my community. So I think people might miss that. It's sort of like, you know what it's like during a snowstorm on a snow day, right? Snow comes down, suddenly everything's quiet. You have no place to go, and you have every excuse to sleep in, play a board game, watch a movie on television, and basically chill.
Last week, we told you that Costco now requires people to wear masks inside their stores, and now some people are boycotting because of it. The Seattle Times talked to a few anti-maskers. One of them said, quote, "If it's my time, it's my time." Another 20-year-old in Bremerton said, "I don't see how it will help me at all, and that the people he's around aren't in his face spitting." Health experts say you can spread the virus before you have symptoms or when you have mild symptoms, and this has played a major role in disease transmission. Ohio Governor's Mike DeWine, because of that information, actually ordered all Ohioans to wear masks in public, but he quickly pulled it back, explaining the decision on ABC.
Face masks are very important, and our business group came back and said, every employee, for example, should wear a face mask. So we're continuing that, whether it's retail or wholesale, whatever it is, manufacturing, every employee is going to have the face mask. But it became very clear to me after we put out the order that everyone in retail who walked into a store as a customer would have to do that. It became clear to me that was just a bridge too far, that people were not going to accept the government telling them what to do.
Well, it's very true. People don't like the government telling them what to do. In this case, though, Costco is a private company, and they have the right to set the rules. We've had signs in stores forever saying no shoes, no shirt, no service, and we accept that, right? So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like being ordered around by the government and insists that private property owners have rights, well, Costco has the right to say, wear a mask. Now, customers have a right to say, I'm not going to shop there. Now, as somebody who thinks we have to figure out a way of both reopening and not flooding the hospitals, I think Costco compelling people to wear masks is a great idea. Costco can get crowded. Costco depends on having a lot of people there to make money, as most stores do. If wearing masks, and this is to protect the other person, not you. You wear the mask to protect the other person wears the mask to protect you. If this is what helps stores make money and stay in business, how is that a hassle? You put on a shirt every day. You put on your pants every day. Why can't you put on a mask every day? I suggested in my commentary this morning, somewhat irresponsibly, that Costco could come up with a compromise. If there are people who insist on bearing some body part that they favor, like their mouth, then I would trade that, make you cover your mouth, and then you just don't wear pants. I'd rather be mooned than infected. But that was sort of over the top. I don't anticipate the governor making that one of the conditions for reopening, so I felt pretty safe that in saying it actually wouldn't happen, because that would probably discourage me from going to Costco.
Yes. No pants would discourage you more than, well,
no,
less
I
than a
think
mask,
no.
though.
I'm telling you, like I say, I know what the human body looks like, but the virus is invisible, and I'd rather not get it. We will be back tomorrow and every day after with a 10-minute rundown of the daily local news. You can subscribe to this podcast. You can also find our news coverage on mynorthwest.com or listen live at 97.3 FM.